Hey everyone, and welcome to another part of Blender beginner tutorial series. So in today's video we are going to talk about how to model stuff in Blender and some tips and tricks related to modeling in Blender, and we will talk about some basic issues that you might face in Blender while modeling. Now we are going to go in depth in modeling in future after this series is completed, but as a beginner, just to get you started in your work, this tutorial is sufficient. So before we start, I would just ask you guys to like this video and subscribe to my channel to support me. And yeah, that's it. That's all I ask. And if you have any doubts, ask them in a comment section below, or you can join my Discord server. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing is, whenever you want to model anything inside any 3D software, you need to add primitive shapes in Blender. So to do that, the manual way is to go ahead on top left corner, click on add, and then you can add your primitive mesh. Now this primitive mesh, they are like your building block, or they are called as your base mesh. Now you can go forward from over here. So suppose if you want to make a rectangular table, you can create a cube. If you want to create a cylinder, like a circular table, you can add a cylinder. So you need to choose the primitive object that resembles close to what you want. So for now, let's just go ahead and add a cube in our scene. Now we have added cube in our scene. Now suppose if I want to remove this cube, you need to press X and you can delete that cube, and as you can see, it also got removed from our outliner. Now let's go ahead and add the cube back again, but this time we are going to use a shortcut. So shortcut is Shift A, which is like add menu, like get me the add menu. And you can see like it is very similar to the top panel because that's what we got over here. So Shift A basically is a shortcut to get that panel near your pointer, and then you can just go ahead and add anything you want. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and add a cube back again in our scene. Now, while modeling the scale, the challenge with the scale is something that you will face. I will show you how. So now we have a cube, and if I press N, you'll see that in the items section, this is our properties panel as we talked about in previous videos. So over here, you can see we have a scale of an object and dimensions of an object. So dimension shows the length of an object in meters. Now, if you want to change that, you can go to the scene properties, and inside units, you can change it to whatever you want. The length, you can change it to followings. So we will keep it at meters. By default, Blender works in meters. So I'm gonna keep it like that. Now, if I go ahead and scale this on the x-axis like this, you'll see that my scale has changed to some value, and then my dimension has changed as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a bevel modifier. Now, what bevel modifier does is it adds this edge cuts, like it makes your edge a little bit smoother, and you can add segments, and then it makes your edge a little bit rounded. Now I can increase the amount. I will just decrease the scale, and as you can see that this bevel for beginners, it might look like, okay, so I guess this is what this modifier does. Actually, no, this is not the result should look like whenever you apply bevel. So it should be even on all the edges, but as we can see, it is even on this edge, it is even on this edge, but it is definitely not even on this edge. So now let me just disable this for once, and let's see what I mean. So if I now press 2 to go in the edge mode, by the way, you can toggle between vertex mode so that you can select each individual vertex. You can click on this second icon, or you can press number pad 2, and then you are in the edge mode, and you can like make changes to that, and the face mode by pressing 3, and you can now make changes to entire face. I will just stay in the edge mode for now, and if I go ahead and hit Ctrl B to bevel anything manually, you'll see that okay, it is beveling it, but it is beveling it more on this face than this face. Now if I select this edge over here, and if I hit Ctrl B, you'll see that it is again beveling it over here more than here, and I think it will keep on doing this. But now if I bevel it over here, you'll see that it is evenly beveling on both this face and this face. So what's the difference? The difference is the scale. This is the reason why the scale matters this much. So what to do in this situation? Suppose the dimension if you made it something like 6, you want to bevel this object. So first thing you are going to do is you're going to hit Control A, and then you're going to apply the scale. And whenever you apply the scale, now if I turn on the modifier again, you'll see the difference between the previous one and this one. Now this has bevel evenly spread on all the edges. So if I increase and decrease the amount, you'll see that it is creating this beveled cube over here. Again, let's go ahead and remove this modifier, and let's delete this object. So now again, let's have another cube in our scene, and this time instead of scaling it in the object mode as we did last time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to edit mode. To select everything, I'm gonna press A once and then press S and X. Now this time I have scaled this object in the edit mode. Now while in the edit mode you can't see the dimensions, that's the drawback. But this time, as you can see, our scale remained 1. So whatever you do in the edit mode, like even if you rotate this thing, it will not get recognized over here. And like suppose in the object mode, if I do anything, you can see it is registering. But in the edit mode, suppose if I select everything again and then rotate it in a weird angle, then you'll see that my rotation, it is still 0, 0, 0. So in this way, whatever you do in the edit mode, you don't have to worry about the adjusting or applying the scale and rotation. But still, always make sure that whenever you make any changes, you go ahead and apply rotation and scale, or just scale by itself. Okay. So now let's talk about some modifiers that will help you model things in Blender. So widely used modifier is mirror modifier. I'm just going to add a cube again, and this time we are going to go into the modify section, and in the generate you'll see that we have a mirror modifier. Now if you don't want to find it like this again and again, you can just go to the search bar. The second option is mirror, but if you don't see it over there, just go ahead and press MIRROR, and you'll see that your mirror modifier is over there. So now how does mirror modifier works? Well, mirror modifier works with respect to origin. Now you can't see the change yet, but if I go into the edit mode now, select everything, and if I move it on the X, you'll see that there is another cube over there. Now if I go out of the edit mode, you'll see it is still over there, and both of them are one single object. Now if I go into the edit mode again, you'll see I can only manipulate this cube over here. The mirror modifier, it says that the axis is selected as X axis. You can select multiple axes if you want, and you can deselect multiple axes by just left mouse clicking on it. So our X axis, what does this mean? So it is mirroring about the X axis, as you can see. Now if I select the Y axis and disable the X axis, you'll notice that nothing has changed. And as I said, it is mirroring about its origin. So I have to select now everything and move it on the Y. So you'll see that right now it is mirroring about that origin point, and it is creating duplicated copy over there. Now to differentiate more, what I will do is I will go ahead and bevel this face, and as you can see, the bevel is on this side, so it is mirroring about Y. Now if I click on the X, you'll see that it has also created a copy over here. Now how is this useful? So if you are making a symmetric part which is symmetric on all the sides, then using mirror modifier should be your first thing. Now you can just select everything and then move closer to each other, and all you need to do is just work on one part and the other parts will take its shape. Okay, so let me go ahead and delete this, and let's make another example. Suppose, let's say I created a table, so let me just scale it down like this, and let's scale it on the X like this, and let's scale it on the Y something like this. Okay, now never forget to apply the scale because your scale is messed up. So Control A, apply scale, and my table is way high, so I'm just gonna bring it down a little bit like that. Now instead of adding another cube, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this one by Shift D. So whenever you duplicate anything, it will automatically be grabbed like this. So if you move your mouse, so just press right mouse button, it will cancel that operation. But now you will start wondering like which one is your object. So in the outliner, you can see that this is my duplicated object. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select that. You can also rename your mesh, by the way. If you double click, you can just name it like leg or something. So now I have selected the leg object and I can move it down. Now the next thing is I want to scale it on the Y and X, not on the Z. So whichever axis you don't want to scale on, just do this thing. So press S to scale and then hold down Shift and press the axis where you don't want to scale the object. So it is the Z axis and it will now scale on the X and Y simultaneously like that. Okay. Now I also want to scale it on the X like this, something like that. Okay, I will apply the rotation and scale. I didn't have to apply the rotation, but I applied it anyway. Now I will move it in this corner over here and let's scale it on the Z axis like this. Okay, so I like this length of the table leg. So I'm just going to hit apply scale again. Now I want this leg to be exactly on all the other three corners as well. So for that, I'm going to use mirror modifier. And as I said, the origin of our leg is over there. So in the mirror object, I'm going to click on this drop down and I'm going to select this top part. Now it has perfectly mirrored itself over there. And what does that did? So mirror object, it takes the origin of whatever object you have selected. So my table origin is exactly at the center, and if it is not for some reason, so suppose say your table origin has gone somewhere else, so I'm just going to apply the location and that didn't change anything, so I'm just going to select everything and move aside. And in this case, if I go ahead and apply the location again, you'll see that your table origin is over there, but you want your leg to be over there. So what to do in this case? First of all, you need to make sure that your scale is applied, because if your scale is not applied, this might give weird results. So right click after selecting your main object and then set origin to geometry. I use this a lot. So this will now center your origin to your object volume itself. Now I can also select the y-axis, and if I go into the edit mode, you'll see that this is my real object and this all three are the fake ones, but they still exist. So mirror modifier is a way to increase the speed of your modeling process, and yeah, this is how you can use it. Now there is one more thing. Suppose you want your origin to be over there. So in that case, what you should do is you can use an empty. Let me just mess up my origin point. Okay, now I'm gonna go into the edit mode and I'm just gonna select everything, and whenever you select everything, your cursor, like you see this gizmo, it goes to the center of that object. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and press Shift S, and then I want my cursor to the selected. So whenever you do that, your cursor is going to snap to whatever your volume or whatever your wherever your gizmo is. Now I'm going to press tab again and get out of the edit mode. I'm just going to hit Shift A, and then I'm going to add a plain axis empty. Now you can add any empty if you want. Plain axis is just something that I have added always. Now moving it up and down, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to, instead of mirror object being my cube, I can select my empty from the outliner, and as you can see now my empty is acting as the origin point. So wherever your empty is, it will be your mirror object. Now making it up and down doesn't really matter that much unless you are using the Z axis as well. So now the position of this matters as well. So you can now create something like this looks like pillars and columns. This is how mirror modifier works, and this is how it can be used in different ways. Now mirror modifier also has another feature, which is clipping. Now how does the clipping help? So if I go into the edit mode and if I move my object to the left, you'll see that my origin point is over there, and now I'm going to go ahead and add a mirror modifier. So this time without enabling the clipping, I'm going to go into the edit mode and then I'm going to push my object towards each other, and you'll see that they pass through each other instead of like clamping down at the center. And to clamp your mesh at the center, you need to turn on the clipping. Now if I select the whole object and if I move it closer, you'll see that it has now stuck in the middle. It is not passing through. And once the object is clipped, so suppose let's say if I go into the face mode, select this face and move it closer to each other, you'll see that now they are clipped together. And if I try to move it apart, you'll see that it is not happening unless and until you disable the clipping. and once you disable it, you can enable it again, and you can move your face freely. But once it is clipped, it is clipped. And also one thing to mention, your mesh, it is like the face inside, it still exists, and it is not a good thing to keep that face inside, so it is better to just delete it. Now, how to see a face which is not even visible to your eyes? So this will affect whenever you try to bevel it or anything. So suppose, let's say if I select everything and if I bevel, you'll see that it is also beveling it inside, and you don't want to select the inside face. So you can either go ahead and hold down shift, and you can manually select all the faces. And now if I bevel it, you'll see that it is still beveling the inside face, and I don't want that. So how do I see the inside face that I don't even know exists? For that, there are two ways. You can go into the X-ray mode, which is this one. So if you click on it, if you are experienced enough, you'll see that there is something at the center. And if you go now in the edit mode, you'll see there is a dot. Now each dot represents a face. Now if you are in a vertex mode, you'll see that those dots goes away, and this time it is kind of difficult to understand if there is a face or not. So to know if the face exists somewhere, you should be in a face mode, and we do see a dot over there. Now X-ray mode is not the only option that is available for you. You can also go ahead and, like in the edit mode, if you hold down Z key, you can see we get this pie menu. So we are now in a solid mode. Then you can change to wireframe mode. Now this is like the fastest way that I personally do things. So if you go into the wireframe mode, you can now see there is also a face over there. Now this pie menu, it is a shortcut for the above tools. So this is the wireframe mode, this is the solid mode, this is the material preview, and this is the rendered mode. All of those things, if you just hold down Z key, you can switch between them, and I find this much more useful and faster instead of going on top over there. So let's just go to the wireframe mode and select that face, hit X and F. Now we have deleted that face. Now deleting something in edit mode is different than deleting something in object mode. So if I click on tab and now I'm in the edit mode, I'll just switch to solid mode again. Now I'm in the face select mode. So if I select the face and press X, you can see I can either delete vertices, edges, faces, only edges and faces, only faces, and we can dissolve three of them. We can do a limited dissolve. Now these are all the things that you can do. Now what is delete vertex? So whenever I do this, you'll see that it has deleted these 4 vertexes, which are these top 4 ones, and as they don't exist, this face can't exist either, so it has just deleted everything. Now if I go ahead in the face mode and if I press X, now it is asking me to delete those edges. So if I delete the edges, you'll see that it has deleted the top selected edges, but it has kept this edges over here. Now to select them, we obviously need to be in the edge mode, and as you can see, we can select those edges. So now I'm gonna hit Ctrl Z to undo the thing. So let's undo it over there. Okay, now if I press X again and if I delete the face, you'll see that now we have made a hollow cuboid or something like that. So now I'm gonna go ahead and undo this as well. Now if I press X and if I do only edge and face, if I do that, now you might probably not see the difference, but if I just do only face, then it has kept that edge. Okay, so it only deleted the face and it has kept that edge over there. So deleting edge and face, so it will delete the edges and faces itself. So yeah, it is something that with experience you will know which one to use when. But for now, you can just stick to whatever this top 3 and you can work your way around. Now you can also duplicate stuff in edit mode as well. So if I select everything and if I press Shift D and if I duplicate, you'll see that I have duplicated this object, and I can now move that object around. I can grab it, I can scale and do all sorts of things with it. I can rotate it as well. And if I disable the clipping, and I can move this object apart, and then I can also, like if I want a face over there, I can go in the edge mode again. Now if I want to select all of these edges at once, I can just hold down Alt and left mouse button, it will select the edge loop over there. And if I press F, it will fill up that face. So now this is how we are going to use mirror modifier in our workflow. Now I'm going to just go into the wireframe mode and select this whole object, go back into the solid mode, and then press X, and then we are going to delete the faces, so because we don't want that object anymore. So in this way, when I select everything and if I try to bevel it, you'll see that it is not beveling the center because there is no face over there, and now it has given me this nice bevel over there. Okay, so that's how mirror modifier works, and once you are done working with it, you can apply the mirror modifier or any kind of modifier by clicking on this arrow and then click on apply. So now let's talk about more mesh manipulation methods that you will need while you are modeling in Blender. So for that, I'm gonna go ahead and add a plane. Now this plane, let's go into the edit mode. Now I can extrude this plane. So if I select the edge by going in the edge mode and then selecting this edge, if I now press E to extrude, now I can extrude stuff like this, and I can move it around. Also, again, if I press E and then leave it by pressing right mouse button, you'll see that we have extra edge over there. And suppose you forgot about it. Let us say you try to add some modifier. Now this extra edge over there, it is going to create issues. It might give you weird results. So to avoid that, what you can do is you can select everything and then press M and do merge by distance. So it has now removed two vertices. Now those two vertices, which were this ones, they were close to each other. Now merge by distance works with a certain distance only. So if I now go ahead and extrude this, and if I keep it somewhat relatively closer but not that close, and now if I select everything, let me zoom in over there, and if I do M and merge by distance, you'll see that it will not remove it, but now there is a panel at the bottom left. Now if I select that and if I increase the slider, you'll see that anything above the range of that say 0.05, it is going to merge that. So this is how merge by distance works. Now instead of doing this, to avoid this thing like extruding, and then instead of having to merge by distance always, you can turn on auto merge option on. So it is over there. If you click on it, now if I go ahead and extrude this and right mouse button click, I can click over here again, and as you can see, it didn't merge itself. So how does auto merge works? So I can still go ahead and make it over there, but now again, if I move it little bit closer, and let's move it a little bit more closer, and you'll see that it has now merged and there is no extra vertices. So it will not work in an instance. So if I extrude and right click, now I can totally move it around, and then if I select this edge and if I move it closer, a little bit more closer, and we can go till over there. Now we have to go absolutely close to it, something like this, and boom, it just got merged. Now, let us say that you don't want this vertex and you want it to be over there. So instead of grabbing it, you can just do an vertex slide or edge slide, whatever you want to call it. So if you press G, you can grab things, but if you press G again, you can see that it is sliding on that edge. Now you can either merge it over there, it doesn't matter. Now you can select multiple vertexes like this, or even you can select the edge itself like this, and if I press G, it is grab. If I press G again, you'll see that it is sliding on those two edges. I can just go till over there, and then it just got merged with that edge over there. As you can see, now it is a one single edge. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's dissolve this edge. So without changing the geometry itself, you can dissolve things. So if I press X again, you can dissolve this edge, and now we don't have that edge anymore. If you go into the vertex mode, you'll see that the vertex is gone as well. Now suppose say I don't want this vertex. So instead of sliding it, you can also go ahead and press X, and you can dissolve that vertex. So once you dissolve that vertex, you'll see that it has gone, but this vertex, it stayed. Okay, so now I want an edge in between this space. So to do that, you need a loop cut. So to do a loop cut, you can press Ctrl R and then if you hover your mouse closer to this edge, or suppose say closer to this edge, now you'll see a yellow line. Now that yellow line is a preview of the edge that you are going to add. So if I now go over here, and if I left mouse button click, you'll see that now my arrow has changed. Now I can move this edge anywhere I want, but I want it to be exactly at the center. So I'm just gonna hit right mouse button like this, and it has snapped to the center from here to here. Now you'll also notice something, that this edge that we added, it is at slightly at an angle. So now if I select this, press X and dissolve that edge, and let's try that again. Okay, so if I now press Ctrl R, you'll see that I have added that edge again, and if I slide it closer to over there, you'll see that it is taking its angle, like it is trying to be parallel to that edge in the front. But when I slide it over here, you'll see that it is trying to be parallel to this edge now. So this is how whenever you add a loop cut, it will try to take the average shape between that face and that edge. So now if I press E again, you'll see that it is straightened up. It is not trying to take the shape, but it totally got merged with the bottom vertex. And if I move it more towards the right, it is trying to go till that vertex available over there. Same thing is happening till over there. Even after adding the edge, you still have an option to move that edge around. You can click on even, which we pressed E4, which is the shortcut. Now as you can see, if I disable the even, you'll see that it is not trying to be parallel to that edge over there. And with the factor, you can move it. So 0.5, or you can say 0 is the center of it. Smoothness, I think this affects when you have multiple cuts, and number of cuts is the something that you probably might need. So number of cuts, if you say 3, then it will divide your mesh into 4 equal parts, or you can say that it added 3 cuts that you can see. Now if I make it 4, it added 4 cuts, and something like that. So now this is how loop cut works. So suppose say I have another mesh, so I'm just going to duplicate this by Shift D, and I will move it over here. So now there are ways to join them both. Now let us say you need to make a face that is connecting these two different meshes. So first thing I will do is I will select this 4 vertexes, and I can press F. This is one way. I'll just undo that. Now you can go into the edge mode. You can select this 2 and press F. And this is also another way of adding the face between them. Okay, so this happens a lot, and I have seen a lot of 3D models with this issue. Like in the edit mode, people just select everything and then they just delete everything and then they get out. Now you'll see that we do have an object, but it is almost nothing. It is just a origin point. Yeah, so this is like an empty object that has nothing in it. So it is just better to not delete anything. Like if you want to delete the whole object, just do it in object mode. Just press X and delete it. Okay, now there is one more thing. If I add a plane and go into the edit mode, and now let me just duplicate this plane over here. Now let us say I want to merge this vertex over there. So how would I do that? One way of doing it is select that vertex, select this vertex, press M to merge panel. Now you can merge at the center. The both vertexes, they got merged at both their centers. So over there. Now there is also one more thing, merge at cursor. Now we do know our cursor is over there. So if I press M and do it at cursor, you'll see that both the vertexes, they got merged at the cursor over there. If I merge it and do a collapse, now this probably will not work. And I think you should probably not worry about collapse yet. So if I press M now, do have two more options, which is merge at first and at last. This is the first thing that we selected, and this is the second thing that we selected. Now if I press M and if I do at first, you'll see that our this vertex got merged at the first vertex that we selected. And if I press M again and do at last, this vertex will go merged over there at that location, because that is what we selected. And even after that, you can still change it from over here. So I'm just gonna delete that, and let's do that same thing on a cube. Now we did that, did some operations on a plane. Now let's try to do same things on a cube. So let's go into the edit mode, and now I'm going to go ahead and first try a loop cut. So Control R for the loop cut. Now there is an equivalent tool for that as well. So over here you can see loop cut tool is available here. Now if I click on a loop cut, you'll see that it is previewing us a yellow line which represents where our loop is going to be. And now I can press left mouse button to confirm it. Okay, now as you can see that until I get out of this loop cut mode, it is going to keep giving me this option to split my mesh at the center. So I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm just gonna click on this gizmo again. And as you can see, we have now successfully added a loop cut on a cube. Now, again, if I press G, I can grab that edge like this. I can even grab it on a specific axis like this. I can press G twice to get my edge slide over here. Now let us say that I make a duplicate of this cube. Okay, so Shift D X. Now I want to merge this face with this face. So if you want to merge all of them at once, just get them closer like this, and AutoMerge will do its thing. Now this is one way of merging two objects. There is obviously another way to do it, and it is much more simpler. But for that, you will need to delete these faces. So delete that face, and let's select that face X, and we are going to delete this face. Now go to the edge mode, and we are going to hold down Alt key and left mouse button to select this whole edge loop. And then if we hold down Alt and select this one, you'll see that this got deselected. Okay, so to keep multiple selections, you need to not only hold down Alt key but also Shift key. And if I left mouse button on that edge, you'll see that we have now selected both of the edge loop. Whenever you are in the edge mode, you can go to the edge properties. Whenever you are in the face mode, you can go to the face properties. Now these are all the things that you can do with your mesh. Whenever you are in the vertex mode, you can go to the vertex properties. Now these are all the things that you can do with a single vertex. So if you want to experiment, you can totally experiment with it. But what we need right now is to merge these two together. So I'm gonna select both of them again, and then let's go to the edge mode again, and I'm gonna select bridge edge loops. So whenever I bridge edge loop, it will fill both of them, and there is one criteria for it, that both of them should have equal number of vertices. So the vertex count should be same for both of them. Even if it is not, it will still try to like create a bridge between them, but the results might be a little bit weird. Now there is a shortcut to go in between these three modes. So vertex mode, edge mode, and face properties mode. Okay, I'm in a vertex mode right now, and I want to bridge edge loop. Okay, so I will press Control E to be inside the edge properties. So these are all the things that I can do with an edge. So I can now go ahead and do bridge edge loop. So just to recap what we just did, this might be getting a little bit confusing, but it's fine. If you don't remember the shortcuts right away, try doing it a little bit more and more. So eventually you will get it in your muscle memory to have all of these shortcuts in your fingertips. Till then, you can either use these panels over here if you don't remember it. So I think as a basic tips and tricks video, basically, this is good enough for a basic tutorial for modeling. We definitely haven't created anything, but I have told you what Blender is capable of. So these are the only tools that you will need as a beginner to model anything inside Blender. So just to show you that, let's create a low poly table. So Shift A, I'm gonna add a cylinder. Now I'm gonna open this properties panel, and then I'm gonna make this a really low poly. So let us say 8 vertices. And now I'm going to scale it down like this, and let's move it up a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to press Ctrl A and apply the scale. Yeah, this looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and again Shift A, add another cylinder. Now these are going to be its legs, and 8 vertices sounds good, but I'm also going to scale it down a little bit more. So I'm just gonna go with 6, and let's scale it down like this. Okay, so we already talked about that shortcut. Let's move it above like that. Okay, Control A, apply the scale again, and in the edit mode I will go ahead and select that face, and I will move it up until I like it. So I think this is good enough length for it. Now I will right click and set origin to geometry. Control A, apply the scale again. So I want the legs to be on four corners. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab this mesh till this corner over here, or let's just grab it till over there. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and select this object, apply a mirror modifier, and I'm going to select X, Y, so both the axis, and for the mirror object, I'm going to select this top part. So now I have my legs, but now let's make it a little bit more fancy. So let's select our legs, go into the edit mode. Now we can't really see the face inside it. So for that, I'm going to go ahead, hold down Z, go into the wireframe mode, select the top face, and then we are going to move it inside a little bit like this. Okay, now this has taken a little bit a really nice shape to it. Also, I want my bottom legs to be a little bit narrow, so I'm going to go into the edit mode again, and I can like rotate to the bottom, select the bottom face, and then we can scale it down like this. Okay, let's get out of the edit mode. And as you can see, my origin is still over there. It doesn't matter. I can right click and then set my origin to geometry again. You don't have to do that. But now our table is looking a little bit more low poly and stylized. We can also go ahead in the edit mode, add a loop cut by Control R. And also I can press E so that it takes like the shape that I want. I can again disable by pressing E. I think I like it this way. Okay, so now I'm just going to grab that edge inwards like this. So now we are also giving it some interesting shape. Now I can again go ahead and rotate it from my view like this by pressing R. I can rotate it and give it a really nice shape from all the sides. Okay, so this looks really good. Also, I think I want to bevel it a little bit, so I'm going to select the whole edge, hit Control B, and then bevel it something like this. And then I can open the panel and then increase a segment to just one segment, and I can adjust the width like this. You can even adjust the shape if you want. So this looks little bit good, but I'm not actually happy with how this is way too big. So I'm just going to hold down scale shift Z, and I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. Let's apply the scale in the edit mode. I'm going to go ahead and select the top panel, and then I'm going to move it up a little bit more like this, so make it a little bit thicker. Apply the scale again. As I said, it is just my habit to do that. I'm going to now add bevel on top and bottom faces. So I'm just going to select both of them, hit Control B, and then drag my mouse out like this. And I think this amount of bevel is good. I can now again go ahead and adjust the width a little bit more to my liking. How does it look without that? It looks decent. Okay. I will just decrease it a little bit like that. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I'm gonna get out of the edit mode, and this is so basically this is the sum of all the things that we did in this video, apart from adding like those bridge edge loop. So let's do one thing. Let's add a hole at the center of this thing. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to the face mode, select the top face, select the bottom face. Now, we haven't talked about this yet, but you can inset a face by pressing I. So if I press I, this will inset a face like this. And it is also happening at the bottom, by the way. So if I press I, you can see I can inset a face like that. And I think hole should be something over there, and you get this properties now over here. You can play around with this properties if you want. So now as we are in a face mode, we need to do bridge edge loops. Now, after selecting these two faces, if I press Ctrl E, I can do a bridge edge loops. Now, if I do that, you'll see that those two faces, they got joined. But if I don't do that, and if I just delete these faces, then I will probably have to do that manually. So a way to do it manually is I will just go into the edge mode, select the bottom loop. Okay, I have selected the bottom loop. I will now press E to extrude, and then I will press Z to clamp myself on the Z axis like this. Okay, now I can go ahead and drop it down like that. And I think it just got merged. Yeah, it got merged. Okay, or else you can do is you can again select this word, merge at last, and you can do that manually like that. But I think bridge edge loop is much more quicker. So Control E, bridge edge loops, and yeah, you are done. You just created a hole. Let me just tell you about inset because we just did it. So if you select any face and press I, you can inset that face. If you press I again, nothing happens. But if you select two faces and press I, you can insert those faces. If you press I again, you can insert individual faces. If you press I again, you can now insert those two faces. So like that, you can select multiple faces like this. And if I press I now, you can see I have inserted those faces. If I press I again, you can insert those individual faces like this. You can also go ahead and press Ctrl R and you can add a loop cut, and then go ahead and Ctrl B to add a bevel like this to add more geometry in your thing. And then you can like give it a little bit of a design, something like that. I can also move it a little bit up like this, and let's move it up a little bit like this. So now your table looks a little bit more like a sitting stool now. So yeah, this is how to manipulate mesh in Blender, and these are some operations that you will get familiar with as you keep on modeling. So there are also a lot of helpful modifiers in the generate tab, in the deform tab, and in the edit you will probably not use this much, but generate and deform, these modifiers are used a lot while 3D modeling in Blender. And we talked about some basic shortcuts and some tips and tricks that I personally use in Blender a lot. This will also help you in speeding up your modeling workflow. Now, in future, after this series is completed, as I said, we are going to create assets. And at that time, we will also talk more about some more tips and tricks. So to stay tuned for that, subscribe to the channel. And if you learned something from this video, hit like to show your support. If you have any doubts, comment section is open for you all, or you can join my Discord server. If you want to support me more, you can do it on Ko-fi. Link will be in the description below. If you forget anything, just go back and watch it again. Try it out yourself. Hope this video helped, and thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.